Okay, we're going to start today on page 316. And Bezrat Hashem, today we're going to finish this Perek. And this will be the last, Mirz Hashem, the last year in this ride. Next week again, next year week will also be some deep Kabbalah, but not the end of the world. And then we move on to like normal, regular programming. But today's year again is going to be, I'll tell you in advance, it's going to be a difficult year to understand. It's going to be difficult for me. It's difficult for me to understand this, and I can't say I understand everything we're talking about today, but we'll try to make our way through it as the Alter Rebbe finishes this chapter with some deep Kabbalistic ideas. Okay. So what did we say last week? We ended off last week talking about the Maila of Torah. The Maila of Torah, the Maila of learning Torah.
Sorry.
No problem. So we said that Torah, and again, what we're talking about over here is the Maila of Torah over the Chilu or the Chimul Sichlium, which means trying to relate to the Eibishter through Avas Hashem and through Yiras Hashem. And we explain that Ava and Yira are Nevrayim, because we are creations, and even our Neshamas are creations. So ultimately, the best that we can muster is something which is a created entity. Our Ava and Yira is created. On the other hand, Torah is not a Nivra, Torah is not a creation. Torah is the Eibishter's Chachma, and it is the Chachma of Atzilus, and even though Tanya comes down into Torah comes down into our world, but as we explained last time, when it comes down into our world, it comes in a way of maiver. Not in a way of maiver, not in a way of hislapshus. In a way of maiver means it passes through. Remember the example we gave of the person who writes with their hand, that the seichel, the ideas, they pass through the hand. They don't come on the level of the hand. They're still on the level of the head, but they pass through. So Torah is a lukus which passes through, and therefore the Torah, as we explained last time, is in the neshama of all the worlds, not the nefesh ruach, as we explained that the nefesh ruach of all the worlds are nefraim. The nefesh and the ruach, in other words, the energy that gives life to the world, every world has a nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The neshama is a lukus of every world. The nefesh and the ruach already have their own identity. So let's do. We're going to start from Vigam Achar, which is 4 lines from the top. Which actually we did these 2 lines last week, but we'll start again from there. Vigam Achar sheyard al Asiya Torah. Even after the Torah comes down to the world of Asiya, Hilamayla bebechinas Chabad Asiya. Torah remains so much higher than even the Chabad of Asiya. Afilu the bechinas neshama sheyah lakus. Even the neshama of Chabad of Atzilus, which, as we explained, the neshama is godliness, the neshama is alakus, but Torah is higher than that. Why is Torah higher than that? Atam mishum the Chabad Asiya the bechinas neshama, the Chabad of Asiya from the level of neshama, even though it's alakus, but who makar hachayis the Chabad the nefesh ruach. It is the makar of the energy of the Chabad of the nefesh and ruach of Asiya. V'toil Lisayan, and all that it gives birth to, v'his hafusan, and everything that it creates, and everything they create, ma'ayin liyash. Im toil Lisayan, with those things which they give birth to, in other words, there's the toilus, and there's the toilus of the toilus, there's the children, and there's the grandchildren. Ad the seifa Asiya, hi aretz v'chol tzava, to the end of the world, Asiya, which is literally the physical earth, and everything that's in it. So meaning Chabad of Asiya, what is it about? It's about creating. It's about creating. So it's about Olam Hazeh, even though it's a lukus, it's godliness, but it's about creation. Aval the Chabad, the halachas bitamein, but the Chabad of the halachas and the reasons of the halachas. Sheba Malchus the Bria v'Yitzira, as we explained last time. That's not in Chabad. That's not from Chabad of Asiya, but they're Chabad of Bria and Yitzira. Chabad of Bria is the Talmud, and Chabad of Yitzira is the Mishnah. So Inyan HaChachma, the Chachma which is within them, He betikun partzufei atzilus. It's not about creation. What are the halachas about? The halachas are telling us what to do, and when we do them, We're mamshechei, we bring light into the partsufim of Atzilus, into the different spheres of Atzilus. Shebehen tluyin kol tamya mitzvahs. That's the point behind that's the reason and the point behind all the mitzvahs. Mitzvahs essay be'heich sadim. The mitzvahs essay that we do is in the heich sadim of the world of Atzilus. They bring light into the 5 chasadim of Atzilus. The mitzvahs leisus are be'heich gvuris. And the mitzvahs leisus that bring light into the heich gvuris. Mushum hachi, and therefore, mushum hachi, nami, and therefore also, even when Torah comes down to address creations, they come down dafke in malchus of bria and yitzira, and dafke in the neshama of them, shehu mekelim datzilus, which are they are from the kelim of Atzilus, which is Elokus, not the nefesh and ruach of the worlds of bria and yitzira, which are not Elokus, which are Nevraim. So what are we saying over here? We're saying is that the Chabad of the Neshama of the world of Asiya is Taka Elokus. But it's a Elokus which is concerned with and already as a Shaykhis to Ilamas, because ultimately it is the source of creation. The Chabad, the Chachama of Torah, which is in the Chabad of Bria and Yetzira, they are above and beyond creation. Their whole idea is Elokus and bringing Elokus into Atzilus. So therefore Torah, which we're learning, it's not only that it's Elokus, but it's Elokus which is completely beyond creation. But now the Alter Rebbe is going to challenge that and saying, what are you telling me? You're telling me that the Chabad of Bria and Yetzira, which is where we have the Mishnah and the Gemara, they are beyond creation. But Alter Rebbe says, L'chayra, that's not the case. The Chabad, the Bria Yetzira, the Bechinis Neshama, even though the Chabad of Bria and Yetzira, of the Neshama of Bria and Yetzira, Shegava made Malos, Al Bechinis Malchus, Bria Yetzira, the Neshama, they are so much higher than the Malchus of Bria Yitzira of the level of Neshama. V'yafal pikin, and nevertheless, in Makar l'chabad de Bria Yitzira shel b'chinas nefesh ruach she'ena malachim. Ultimately, the malachim, which are the creations in the worlds of Bria and Yitzira, where do the malachim come from? They're sourced in the Chabad of the Neshama. In other words, the nefesh and ruach, the creations of the worlds of Bria and Yitzira, where are they sourced in? In the Neshama of Bria and Yetzira. So why are you telling me that the Neshama of Bria and Yetzira are beyond creation and they have no shaykhis to creation? In Bria and Yetzira, the makar for the Nevroim, for the creations of Bria and Yetzira, is the Chabad of Bria and Yetzira. Let's stop and let's repeat this whole thing outside. Because some people look like they're in pain. Some people look like they're in pain, and some people look like they're not even in pain because they're numb. Okay, so let's go back and let's give you some basic principles over here. Principle number 1: Atzilus is Elokus. Everything in Atzilus is Elokus. The Iris, the Kalim, everything in Atzilus is godliness. In the words of Kabbalah, Iu v'chayohi chad, Iu v'garmohi chad, which means in the world of Atzilus, Hashem is one with the Chayohi, which is the Iris, and the Garmohi, which is the Kalim. And Atzilus, everything is the world of godliness. Then we have the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. The worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, so here, these are creations, these aren't worlds of godliness. And the hint, what gives it away is the world of Bria. What's the name of the world of Bria? Is Bria, which means creation. Creation means it's something which is other than Hashem. Nevertheless, even in the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, the Neshama is Elokus. Not the Nefesh and Ruach, but the Neshama and the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya are Elokus. And as we explained in the past, that's the idea of the Lamed Kalim of Malchus of Atzilus. They become the Neshama for the worlds. We explained that there's the Kalim of Malchus of Atzilus. Malchus of Atzilus, but Malchus is divided into 10. There's Chachma Sheba Malchus and Bina Sheba Malchus, and each one has Iris and Kalim. So you have 10 Kalim of Malchus of Atzilus. Did I manage to lose everyone already again? You have 10 Kalim of Malchus Atzilus, but that's all Elokus, because in Atzilus everything is Elokus. Even the Kalim of the lowest Madrege, because Malchus is the lowest level in Atzilus, and the Kalim are the lowest level because the Iris are higher. But even the Kalim of Malchus of Atzilus are also Elokus, and there are 10 Kalim in Malchus. There's the Kali of Chachma de Malchus, the Keli, you have Bina de Malchus, and Das de Malchus, and Chesed de Malchus, and Gvura de Malchus, etc. Okay. And these 10 Kelim, as we explained, each one of them has a Pnimius, a Chetzonius, and Emtsoius. Each one has the inner dimension, the outer dimension, and the middle dimension. The inner dimension of these 10 Kelim, they become the Neshama for the world of Bria. The middle dimensions, they become the Neshama for the world of Yitzira. And the Chetzonius, they become the Neshama for the world of Asiya. And that's what it says in Kabbalah, that the Lamed Kelim of Malchus Datzilos, the 30 Kelim of Malchus Datzilos, they become the Neshama for Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya. So the Neshama of every single world is Elikus. Now what are we saying? We're saying that Torah originates in the Chachma of Atzilus. But ultimately the Torah that we have comes down through, and at the end of the day, the Talmud that we have, the Gemara that we have, is the Chachma of Atzilus as it's mislabish in Malchus of Bria, in Chachma of Bria. And the Mishnah is the Chachma of Atzilus as it enters Chachma of Yitzira. And then, so the Talmud that we have comes to us directly from Chachma of Bria. Even though it's here in Elam Hazeh, it comes by way of Maiver, as we explained last week. It just passes through. The Talmud we have is Chachma of Bria. And then the Mishnah that we have is from Chachma of Yitzira. And now the Alter Rebbe is saying that this is very important. Why? Because the advantage of Chachma of Bria and Yitzira, Neshama, this is all Neshama we're talking about, because Torah is a Lakus, is so much greater even than the Neshama of the world of Asiya. Even though the Neshama of Asiya is also a Lakus. What's the advantage of Torah, which is Chachma of Bria and Yitzira, over Chachma of Asiya, which is also a Lakus? The Alter Rebbe says, the Chachma of Asiya, even though it's a Lakus, but it's a Lakus which is about what? It's about creation. Ultimately, the Chachma of Asiya, the Chachma of the Neshama, the Chabad of the Neshama of Asiya, is what creates the Nefesh and Ruach of Asiya, which then ultimately creates everything in our world. So it's a Lakus, which is coming down to the level of Ilam of our world. On the other hand, the Chabad of the Neshama of Bria and Yitzira, they're completely above and beyond creation. Did that make a little more sense what I just said now?
Easier.
So now the Alter Rebbe asks, well, what do you mean? Well, you're telling me that the Chabad of the Neshama of Bria and Yitzira are completely beyond creation. Where do the Malachim come from? Malachim are creations. And the Malachim are in the worlds of Bria and Yitzira. And they are sourced in the Chabad of the Neshama of Bria and Yitzira. So why are you telling me that the Chabad of the Neshama of Bria and Yitzira are completely removed and beyond creation, when no, they are the source of the Malachim? That's the question Alter Rebbe is asking over here. Sheldon, how you doing?
I'm doing.
When you get confused, you go to the Rosh Tevis in the back, and you think that might help you out.
That's right.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nidei b'dvarei.
Amen. You okay?
Yes, but
Good.
This is like a pilpul over here. So I'll tell you first, I'll tell you what Alter Rebbe is going to answer, then I'll tell you the question he's going to ask on that answer, and the answer that he's going to give, okay? The answer he's going to say is like this. He says, yeah, the Malachim are created through, the Malachim Tak are created, they come, they're sourced in the Chabad of the Neshama of Bria and Yitzira. But it's not really from the Chabad. It's from the Tipa that comes from Chabad. A Tipa is something we've spoken about in the past, right? That whenever there's a Yichud between the Zachar and the Nekeva, so there's the Tipa, there's that drop that goes from the Zachar to the Nekeva. And ultimately, what emerges is something which is so removed from the source. It's not like hamshacha, direct hamshacha of seichel. In other words, in the tipa, you have the whole the whole thing is gashmi. It's not like hamshacha ruchnis. It's a very so therefore, even though that the neshamis, even though the malachim taka, they come from Chabad of the neshama of Bria Yitzira, but they're from a tipa which comes from Chabad. That's what Alter Rebbe answers. I know that what Sasson wants to ask now is, but one second, didn't we just learn a few weeks ago that in the tipa is nimshach from the etzem? The etzem of the father, the essence of the father is nimshach in the tipa. Here we're making, it's only the tipa, it's only a very external, when didn't we just learn that the tipa, the etzem is nimshach in the tipa? So Alter Rebbe answers, when do we say that the etzem, the essence is nimshach, the etzem is present in the tipa? That's when we're talking about a hamshacha gashmis. But over here, since we're all talking in the worlds of ruchnius still, so therefore in ruchnius, the etzem is not nimshach in the tipa, and therefore take the malachim, they come from the chabad of bria and yitzira, of the neshama, but in a way of tipa, which is a very, very external hamshacha. It's the essence of the chabad is not nimshach in it, as opposed to the chabad of the neshama of our world of Asiya, which directly is involved in the creation of the worlds. Let's do this inside.
So the tipa, it's only gashmiyut.
Only in the tipa gashmius is where you have the essence is revealed. Yeah. So we're going to start from leikosha midi. The first one line is bechinas. Alter Rebbe says leikosha midi. It's not shver. Why? The be'emes hamalach v'anamsham is in an element tipa namshachas mechabad. The neshama. Because the malachim and the neshama is they're from the tipa, which comes from the chabad of the neshama. Li yisoid za, and they come to the yisoid, which is in za. V'nitin lenukva, and from yisoid that tipa goes into malchus. U'misham yatzu b'bechinas leida. And from there, the malachim come out in a way of birth. So even if you're going to say that 1 second, these are created from the order of the kelim of nukva datzilus, which means that the essence is in them. But ultimately they become a neshama, which is ruchni, so therefore they do not have the essence within them. However, you want, so the malachim that come out of chabad, that's only in a way of leda, of a tipa, which comes out and separates from them. But you want to know where's the essence of the chabad of the neshama? Mispashet bevav kavin dezun. That comes into the six dimensions of zun. Zun is what? Of the six midas and malchus. V'sham hem shita sidrei mishnah or gemara. There they are the shas, the six sedarim. That's why the number is 6. Mm-hmm. And that's where the essence is. So the essence of the lukus is in the Torah, not in the malachim. Okay. You guys understand just as much as I do. We're moving on.
Yeah.
Also Beitz Chaim, and that which it says in Eitz Chaim v'Shari Yechudim, Sayyidei HaKavana Nasa Levush Neshama. That when a person learns Torah or does mitzvahs with a kavana, then you get a levush from the level of neshama. Through Torah by itself, without kavana, you get levush. You get a levush of ruach de ruach al yedei mishnah de yitzira. If you're learning mishnah, then your neshama, the garment that your neshama gets, is a levush from ruach de ruach, from the world of yitzira. And v'ruach de neshama de bria al yedei hagemara. And if you're learning gemara, then you get from the world of bria, but not ruach de ruach, but ruach de neshama. So again, when you're learning Torah without kavana, so the best you do is you can get your levush that you get is not on the level of neshama, it's on the level of ruach. But what level of ruach? If you're learning Mishnah, so it's ruach the ruach of bria, of yitzira. And if you're learning Gemara, it's ruach the neshama of the world of bria. But even though it's ruach the neshama, it's ruach. But 1 second, didn't we just say that all Torah is on the level of neshama? So why, when you're learning Torah, is the levush from the level of ruach? Yes, Shleimar, Alter Rebbe says, perhaps we can answer the Hainu Dafka the Torah Sa'adam Belam Hazeh. That's because we're talking about the Torah of a person here in this world, Ha'elu L'mayla, which goes above. And then the day you're learning Torah, and you're a creation, and therefore you're with your as a creation, the Torah that you learn is also on the level of the world of ruach. But the Torah itself, not the Torah you're learning, the Torah itself, Hu ben Neshama, is on the level of the Shama, and that's why, as brought out in Kabbalah, that the Torah has the ability to mevarer the ruach in the person, because be'etzem it's on the level of the Shama. V'chein b'mishnah the Yitzira, and that's not only true about Talmud, but also when it comes to Mishnah, it's also on the level of the Shama.
We didn't get everything by Sinai.
We did.
So why he mentioned only the Talmud?
And then he says v'chein b'mishnah, the same things with the Mishnah.
Includes Mishnah. And by Mishnah, yeah.
And now the Alter Rebbe says, these kind of lashonis you don't find anywhere else in Tanya. It's like a mamish, a pilpul in Kabbalah. Even if you're going to tell me that even the Torah given by Sinai also is not on the level of neshama, but it's on the level of ruach. So suddenly here the Alter Rebbe is like taking a U-turn. Until now we're saying the whole time that Torah is on the level of Neshama, which is Elokus. And now the Alter Rebbe says, you know what? I'm gonna concede. Maybe Taka is on the level of Ruach, but if it's on the level of Ruach, then it's not Elokus, it's not godliness. Alter Rebbe says no. Even if it's on the level of Ruach, it can also be Elokus. Why is that? It is known Shekol Malach Shu Shliach Malamaylo, that every Malach, and a Malach is absolutely 100% a creation. But when a Malach is a Shliach Malamaylo, when a Malach is actually doing a Shlichus from above, Azai Nikra B'Shem Hashem Mamish, then the Malach is called by the name of Hashem. This is the Alter Rebbe quotes this earlier also. The Rambam talks about this, and we have a few times in Bereshis where it talks about where a Malach says something and the Malach is called Hashem. You have by Hagar, right, where it says that the Malach spoke to her, and the Hagar says it's called a Be'eru Lachai Rei, right, because it's the place where Hashem spoke to her. But what do you mean it was Hashem? It was a Malach. But when a Malach is doing a Shlichus of the Eibishter, so the Malach is also called by the name of Hashem.
If the Malach doesn't do any Shlichut?
When the Malach is not doing a Shlichus, not because the Malach is rebelling, but because it's not preoccupied at that moment with the Shlichus. Benzin, can you give me how you, can I bother you? Yesh le shem acher, kifi avidasai. Then the Malach has another name. In other words, thank you so much. When the Malach is doing its Shlichus, then it doesn't have its own identity. It's a Lakus. As opposed to when it's not doing the Shlichus, then it has its own name, its own identity, according to its avoida. In other words, every Malach, even when it doesn't have a Shliach, it's serving the Shlichus, it's serving the Eibishter, it's singing the Shira, for example.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, the Malach, by definition, has a Shlichus from Hashem.
No, so the Shlichus is go do something. When the Malach is singing Shira, for example, to the Eibishter, that's not a Shlichus, that's its own avoida. So it's a difference. The Alter Rebbe is here being mechalik. He's saying there's the times when the Malach is actually executing a direct mission from Hashem, and there's a time when the Malach is learning Torah or serving the Eibishter with Ava V'yira, but it's not actually doing a shlichus from Hashem. V'azai, and then when the Malach is not busy doing a shlichus, Koyre Kadesh 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 Hashem Chulu. The Malach is saying Kadesh Kadesh, which is very interesting. What does the word Kadesh mean? Ruvain, what does the word Kadesh mean? Holy. But what is the real meaning of the word Kadesh? Separate, right? Kalemar, so when the Malachim are saying Kadesh, 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 what are they saying? Kalemar, Shashem Hashem Mudal. They're saying Kadesh, 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 Hashem. Hashem is completely removed from us. Now, 5 minutes ago, you were called Hashem. This Malach was called Hashem 5 minutes ago. And now this Malach is saying Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh Hashem, which means that Hashem is so removed. And the reason why is, again, when the Malach is doing it, because then it loses its identity. And then at that time, the Malach wouldn't say Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh Hashem, because at that time, the Malach is actually called by the name of Hashem. But now, after when the Malach finishes doing its shlichus, now it's saying Kadesh, Kadesh.
However, we know some Malachim that they have essence in life. One is for Refuah, one Hashem sent for Abraham, for Sarah. What the rest of the Malachim does. We know some Malachim that Malach Gabriel, Malach Michael, everybody has shlichut. But they have probably thousands of Malachim. We don't know about them.
Thousands.
They escort you home on Friday night.
They have to escort me every day, not only Friday.
That's right.
There you go.
Okay.
And then there are the Malachim which brought down, the Zohar talks about the Malachim that take our tefillos and they polish them and bring them up to heaven. There's also Malachim which are Shluchi Hashefa, they're in charge of bringing down the Hashbois from Hashem here to this world.
Jobs.
A lot of jobs, yeah.
Okay.
Here you go.
The Alter Rebbe is going to say, V'cheinu mamish b'bechinas yislapshus Talmud. Same thing is when Talmud comes down b'bechinas ruach de bria. When the Talmud comes down in the ruach of bria, or v'hamishna b'ruach de yitzira, him shluchi Hashem. They're the shluchim of Hashem. And therefore, even though they're in the ruach, and ruach is creation, but because they're shluchim, they still maintain the level of alakus, just like a malach when it's doing its shluchus, which is also alakus. When we're saying shluchi Hashem, they're the messengers of Hashem. What level of Hashem are they the messengers of? The hainu kelim, the nukva d'atzilus, the kelim of malchus of atzilus, hachitzoinim b'talmud v'emtzoim b'mishnah. The external part of the kelim in Talmud, and the middle ones in Mishnah, which I don't understand. Because Dedekal we talk about Talmud being higher than Mishnah, but here it's Mashmal says that the Talmud is lower. Ashar Mishnah v'Talmud shemehem. The Mishnah and the Talmud nimshachim miyisoid Abba. Both of them come from the level of Yisoid within Chachma. Hamakabel machachma stima da'arech, which in turn it receives from the hidden Chachma, which is in Keser. Shavei melubash Erin Seif Baruch Hu, which is within it is Erin Saf. V'nimtza, so it turns out she'Erin Saf, that the Erin Saf, who Shem Hashem sheichin beruach debiyah, is within the ruach of Bri Yitzir Nasiya v'Mikra Mishnah v'Talmud, and the Mikra the Mishnah v'Talmud. Okay, so now what did Alter Rebbe say over here? What did we just finish? Until now, the whole time. Excuse me. Okay, so this doesn't detract from the larger idea we're saying. The larger idea is, again, we're trying to talk about the greatness of learning Torah over Ava v'Yira. So he explained that Ava v'Yira are Nivraim. Why? Because we are creations. So therefore, our Ava v'Yira are creations. Torah, on the other hand, is Elokus. And therefore, when we learn Torah, we're uniting with Elokus. So until recently, the Alter Rebbe was saying, what does it mean that the Torah is Elokus? Is because the Torah is in the neshama of the worlds of Bria Yetzirah. If they're in the neshama of Bria Yetzirah, then obviously they're godliness, because the neshama of Bria Yetzirah are Elokus. And now the Alter Rebbe says, however, there's a possibility, and he's not machriya. And he says there's a possibility that the truth is that the Torah is not in the neshama, but the Torah is in the ruach of Bria Yetzirah. But however, even if the Torah is in the ruach of Bria Yetzirah, because the Torah is a shliach of Malchus of Atzilus, so therefore it also was Elokus. So either way, when we're learning Torah, we're engaging Elokus, and Elokus which is beyond the worlds. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to firace. Now we end. When a person learns Torah, so now what you're doing is, because Torah is Elokus, when you learn Torah, you're bringing the Ein Sof into this world, causing our world to be subsumed and bottle to the Eir of Hashem. And this is the entire purpose of our creation of the human being, is to learn Torah and to thereby cause that the world should be subsumed and become bottled to the Eir Sof. That was the Avodah of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and all the Tanaim and Amoraim benigla. They learned Torah, the nigla of Torah. They learned the halachas of Torah. Laham shech Eiri Yisbarach, to bring down the Eir of Hashem, levarer birugir nega, and in this way, to be mevarer the birurim of klipas nega, which is in this world. Kol meshach zman hagalus. This is so important. So long that we are in galus, the shalta ilana de tevera. Because during galus, this is something that we spoke about at length, for those who recall, when we learned Simen Chaf Vav of Igaris HaKodesh, and a whole long conversation about this. Where the Simen Chaf Vav, there it talks about how our world today is dominated by Toivera, by the Eitz Hadas Toivera. That's why everything in this world is Klipa. Klipa means there's good and bad, which is, there's good, which is the Tzutzais, the sparks of holiness, which is within it. And then there's the Rad, the Klipa, which covers over it. And as long as that's the situation in the world, well, we need to learn Torah. We need to learn the halachas. Why? Because every time we learn halachas, we're bringing down the Eir and Sof into the world, and we're elevating our world. As the pasuk says, "Eis asher shalat ha'adam ba'adam chul." This is a pasuk that we quoted also earlier on. The pasuk says, I believe it's a pasuk in Eiv, that Eis asher shalat ha'adam ba'adam l'rale, that the Adam, the one person, dominates over the other person, but it's for the person A dominates over person B, but it's for the detriment, it's for the downfall ultimately of person A. And the way that Arizal explains this, that person one is Klipa, the Adam of Klipa. Person two is Adam Elyon, it's Kedusha. And in our world, Klipa dominates over Kedusha. The Klipa covers up the holiness, but it's L'Rale, the whole thing, it's ultimately, it's to bring to the downfall of Klipa and to bring to the strengthening of Kedusha. And ultimately, that is the purpose of all of the chaining down of the light through creation. The whole point is to bring the Eir, that which is above, the light down here, that Hashem should have a dwelling place over here in this world. To elevate the world, so that the unity that there is over here in this world should be the equivalent, the same as the unity that exists in the higher worlds. Mashen can avodas hamalachim, as opposed to avodah the malachim, which is the chilu erechim u'sichlim, which is ava v'yira. Ava v'yira through seichel. By the way, and we could do the same thing. If we, instead of learning Torah, we can just engage in ava v'yira for Hashem. Eina bebechinas hamshacha klal u'klal. It's not, ava v'yira doesn't bring down any light into this world. Raki stalkus chulu. Rather, as we explained a few weeks ago, ava v'yira, the idea is the leaving the keli, yearning and stretching and reaching for Hashem. As opposed to learning Torah, Torah is a lakus, and when we learn Torah, we're bringing the lakus down here into this world. Now we'll understand why. This is something that we spoke about a few chapters ago. That it's brought down in Kabbalah, that afilu shlei b'kavana. If you learn Torah even without kavana, then you create malachim. Shehu b'chines ruach b'lvad. She'ena lakus klal. Now even though that when I'm learning Torah without kavana l'chayda, it's only ruach, it's not neshama. Because if you remember, if you see what we said earlier, 4 lines in the bottom of page 316, it says over there, the idea kavana nasal neshama. That when you have kavana and you're learning Torah, then you have neshama. Neshama is a likus. But if you don't have kavana, then it's only ruach. Ruach is not a likus. How are you busy creating malachim, something from nothing, if it's not a likus?
What does kavana mean? Kavana that what?
Avavira. When you learn Torah with Avavira. Let me finish one more line and then I'll take your objection.
I don't know what that means. All right.
Let me finish the line and then I will. But what did we just explain? That even if Torah is Ruach, but it's like the Malachim, that even though they're creations, but because Hashem is within them, and therefore it's also a Lukus. And therefore when you learn Torah, even if it's without Kavan, and even though it's Ruach, but it's Ruach like the Malachim are Ruach, and therefore it also is a Lukus.
It's like machshava.
And because it's a Lukus, it can create. And because it's a likus, it can create yesh v'ayin.
It's like machshava.
It has no connection to machshava k'masa. None whatsoever.
Kavana.
Kavana is not machshava.
I don't understand how you could learn Torah without kavana. I mean,
Kavana means ava v'yira.
yeah, I heard that, but that's
Doesn't get in.
yeah. You're learning because you want to do the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. I mean, how could that not be kavana?
Sheldon, I'm very, very happy that you're saying that. And Baruch Hashem that you're on the level where you can't even relate to someone who's learning Torah for a different reason. But in many places in Chassidus, Kabbalah talks about people who learn Torah. I mean, even, by the way, even Pirkei Avos, that someone who's learns Torah kekardim lachtich, and he's not doing it for kavana, he's doing it only for.
Okay, that's okay. Now
And there are some people who learn Torah because they enjoy learning Torah.
now
Even learn Torah to know the luchos is auch nicht 100% Torah geschmack.
That's true. Okay. Now, so we finished we finished this Perek, and we didn't really understand too much. But what I want to do for the next few minutes over here, I want to give you something, an idea from the parsha, connected to the parsha, which touches very much upon what we learned about in the Siman, but in a way that I think we should be able to understand it. So in the Hayom Yom for this Shabbos, how does this work? Yeah, this will work. This will work. No, I said it'll work. It says like this. When the Tzemach Tzedek was a child, I'll just read it in English. And he learned the pasuk, Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim shva'as rishana. He learned the pasuk that says that Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim 17 years. So his teacher translated the pasuk according to the Pirush of the Baal HaTurim. And the Baal HaTurim says that Yaakov Avinu lived his 17 best years in Mitzrayim. Vayechi Yaakov, where did Yaakov live? Takev, wo der gelebt? That was in Mitzrayim. So that was what the Tzemach Tzedek, what he learned in Cheder. When he came home from Cheder, so he asked his grandfather, the Alter Rebbe. He was raised by his grandfather. His mother passed away when he was close to 3 years old, and he was raised by his grandfather. He said, how could it be that the best years in the life of Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov Avinu is known as the Bechir HaAvis. He was, of all of the Avis, he was the greatest of them. How is it that the 17 best years he lived in Mitzrayim? And we know the Mitzrayim is Ervas HaAretz. Mitzrayim is the lowliest of places, yeah. So the Rebbe answered as follows. The pasuk says that was Yehuda Shalach Lefanav Laheres Lefanav Geishna. The Yaakov sent Yehuda before him to Yosef to show him Lahidus Lafanav, the way to Goshen. Now the Medrash, and it's also cited by Rashi, the Medrash says that Nehemiah said that why did Yehuda go down? To prepare a base Talmud. Shemesham Teitze Hira, from their Torah started to their Torah would be
Spread it.
Shtehesham Torah, that will be Torah over there. Usheyu Ashvatim Hoigim b'Torah, the Shvatim should sit and learn Torah. Lahoides Lefanav Goshna. As men learn Torah, men enter zum Eibishten Baruch. The word Goshen is also like Vayigash, getting close. Lahoides Lefanav Goshna, that when you learn Torah, Goshna. Men enter zum Eibishten Baruch, you come close to the Eibishter. When Eich in Mitzrayim is given Vayichi gelept, and also in Mitzrayim, you can have Vayichi. You could live. Nice story, no?
Also,
No questions?
It's also that the old Shvatim were together in harmony. This is his life.
Very good. So let me tell you something about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, he would take these stories and he would, for fun, for sport, he would take them apart and ask a million questions on them. And when he rebuilt them and he answered the question, suddenly you have a whole new understanding of what's going on. It's a standard. If you learn Sichas, you see this. The Rebbe will bring down something of this sort and ask. And by the way, before you hear the questions, you're like, it sounds so great. And after you hear the questions, you're like, yeah, those are really good questions. And then once you have the answer, suddenly the whole thing, you see it in the light. So the Rebbe asked a few questions on this. Question number one. What was the question of the Tzemach Tzedek? He wanted to know why Yaakov's best years were in Mitzrayim. It's very pashut. Look at the Torah. It's because he thought Yosef was dead. And he comes down, and what does he say? Amusa apam, right? What's the Shaila? It's number one. Number two, what's the answer? The Tzemach Tzedek, the Alter Rebbe didn't answer the question. The Tzemach Tzedek asked, how is the Yaakov, his best years were in Mitzrayim? So what did he answer? He says, because you learned Torah. But he could learn Torah at Yisrael also. That doesn't explain why the best years were in Mitzrayim. The answer doesn't answer the question. So the question is a funny question. The answer doesn't really answer the question. And then the Rebbe takes it a little deeper. You notice that the Alter Rebbe says over here, it says in the Medrash, and it's also brought down in Rashi, that this whole idea of why did the Alter Rebbe have to say it says it in the Medrash and it's brought it down in Rashi? Just say it says it in Rashi. You're talking to a kid. Tell him it says it in Rashi. There's something going on over here, right? Furthermore, you'll notice that the Rashi doesn't say the exact same thing as the Medrash. Rashi says that the reason why he sent on Yehuda to open a base Talmud, Shemesham Teitzeira, that's Taka where there should be Torah. The Medrash added, the Shvatim should learn Torah. Which is what the Alter Rebbe quotes over here. Shvatim Hoigim b'Torah. So the reason why the Alter Rebbe quoted the Medrash, not Rashi, is because the Alter Rebbe wanted these words, Shvatim Hoigim b'Torah. But the question is, 1 second. The Shaila is Vayichi Yaakov. How is Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim? That's answer this question. How does the fact that the Shvatim are learning Torah, how does that help explain Vayichi Yaakov? So the Alter Rebbe answered from the Medrash because he wants to add in some words, but those words don't seem to help you over here in any which way. Now we're confused. Mm-hmm. So the Rebbe takes a cute little story and suddenly is like poking holes in it. What's going on over here?
You've done your job.
What?
You've done your job.
Done my job.
Making children for
Goes to show there's the simple level, and then when you dig and you dig, you come deeper, deeper, deeper. And by the way, this is something brought down in Chassidus in many places. This is what's brought down in Chassidus, that the idea of the Maila of Talmud Bavli over Talmud Yerushalmi. The Talmud Bavli, we know that the halacha, when the machlekes in Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi, the halacha is like the Bavli. But it's also brought down, the pasuk says in Eicha b'machshakim heshivani, zet Talmud Bavli. The Talmud Bavli is choshech compared to the oir of Talmud Yerushalmi. Mm-hmm. So how do you reconcile? If Talmud Bavli is machshakim, so why is it the halacha is like the Talmud Bavli? So Chassidus is explained in different places that what is the machshakim? What is the darkness? They're dark. So when you have darkness, you have questions and you don't understand. And then once you have questions, then you dig and you explore, and then you reach a higher level of chachma, of understanding, than you could have arrived without the cheshach, without all the questions.
Shabbos.
Kind of.
We need you for Mariv. Stay in 10
There's no
minutes.
meaning about it.
Huh?
We don't already.
We don't have them.
You got
Sorry.
Thank you.
So the Rebbe explains the Shaila of the Tzemach Tzedek, even though he's a little kid, but he's still the Tzemach Tzedek. Shaila of the Tzemach Tzedek is, you're telling me that Yaakov was the Yosef, that's great. But at the end of the day, Mitzrayim is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, the word Mitzrayim means Mitzrayim Gvula. And it's Ervas Haaretz Taka. And if Yaakov, whose whole union is higher, higher, and higher, and higher, how is it shaykh that in Mitzrayim, that Yaakov should have the best years of his life? What's going on over here? So the Rebbe tells him, you want to know how it's possible to be in Mitzrayim and to have the best years of your life? You're still learning Torah. Why? Because what is Torah? And this is what we've been learning the entire time in this Perek. Torah is a lukus. And even when Torah comes down into the way the Alter Rebbe explains it, even when it comes down into the Chabad of the world of Asiyah, even when it comes into the Ruach, ultimately the one thing about Torah is, it's always a lukus. And that's how we ended up over here. That's why we have to sit and learn Torah over here in this world. Because when we learn Torah, we're bringing a lukus down here into this world. A lukus which is not mischashev, which doesn't reckon with Mitzrayim Gvulim. And therefore, if you're learning Torah, even when you're in Mitzrayim, you're completely connected to the Eibishter, which is mamash what we're talking about over here in this Perek. And that's dafkin with the koyach of Torah, because Torah is a lukus.
But you can learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael. How do you answer that?
But you can learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael.
So what would this be any better than this Memtesh
Higher
Arituma, Eretz Haaretz? How do you reconcile that? That was a question you asked.
So what did we just learn in Tanya? That what is the tachlis of ishtalshalos of everything is? That the Eibishter wants to bring the eir of the... Why are we sitting learning Torah? Because the Eibishter wants the eir of a lukus down here in this world. And in, as Alter Rebbe says, because the Eibishter wants to do it with Tachtonim in the lowest part of the world. And therefore, Dafke, when you're in Mitzrayim, when you're learning Torah, that's actually there's what's called a Yishan ha'eir haba min ha'cheshach. Yishan ha'eir haba min ha'cheshach, there's the advantage of light, which comes from the darkness. Dafke, the light in Mitzrayim, is that's the ultimate nekuda, is when Shvatim are learning Torah in Mitzrayim. That's bringing Torah, elukus, into the lowest level possible. And interestingly, the Alter Rebbe brings down that there's not a maimer from the Tzemach Tzedek, which he said much later on in his life, where he says Vayichi Yaakov beres Mitzrayim. And why Vayichi Yaakov beres Mitzrayim? Because Dafke in Mitzrayim you have the mile of Yisna Er, Menacheshach, the mile of Er, which emerges from a dark place. But here's something very interesting. Yaakov, was in the Madrig of the world of Atzilus. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were Chesed, Gevurah, and Teferes of Atzilus. The Shvatim, on the other hand, they were on the level of the world of Bria. Brought on many places. The others were the Merkava of the Elam of Atzilus, that's Merkava Ilah, and the Shvatim were the Merkava of the Elam of Bria, Merkava Tata. Based, connected to the Yud Beis Bakar and the Yamsha Asa Shlema. And the bottom line is the Shvatim are the Madrig of the world of Bria. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu, because he was in Mitzrayim, because he was in the level of Atzilus, Taka wasn't in Mitzrayim really. He really wasn't in Mitzrayim. Because Alakus can't be in, the Eibishter can't be in Golus in an essential way. The Shvatim, because they were from the world of Bria, they Taka were in Golus. The Shvatim were in Mitzrayim. And that's why the Alter Rebbe adds the words that the Shvatim were Hegem Batera. The Shvatim Hegem Batera are caused by Yechi Yaakov. Why? Because what are we talking about in this Perek Tanya the entire time? The purpose that when we do mitzvahs in our world, we're Mevarer Birurim, and that brings a Tesefes Oyer in the world of Atzilus. So when the Shvatim are Hegem Batera, when the Shvatim are learning Torah, and thereby being Mevarer, and thereby being Mevarer Mitzrayim, who benefits from it is Yaakov. Is Yaakov Avinu. So Vayichi Yaakov, so Taka Yaakov's best years of his life were Mitzrayim, Dafki Mitzrayim. Why? Because in Mitzrayim, you learn Torah, you connect to the Eibishter. And when the Shvatim are learning Torah and bringing a lakus into Mitzrayim, Vayichi Yaakov, that causes that extra oir comes in that silos, and the benefit of that is taka for Yaakov Avinu. So it's a word in this week's parsha, but it really encapsulates so much of what we learned in this Perek over these past few weeks. This idea that we learn Torah, we do mitzvahs over here in this world, and through us being mevarad and etzutis in this world, we cause it tesefes oir. We bring down light into the world of Atzilus. Ultimately, that light filters down into this world, and when that happens, we have over here Hidir B'Tachtonim.